Burma, February 1942. The Empire of Japan had just done the impossible. In 10 weeks, the 15th Army under Lieutenant General Shigiro Ida had broken across the Thai border, smashed 2 Indian brigades at Moulmein, and was driving north toward Rangoon with the speed of a closing fist. Standing in their path was the 17th Indian Infantry Division, commanded by Major General John Jackie Smythe, a Victoria Cross winner from the Great War, a man whose courage was beyond question, but whose health was failing him at the worst possible moment. Smythe was suffering from an anal fistula. He was being injected daily with morphine just to stay in the saddle. The man making life-and-death decisions for 15,000 soldiers was, in his own words, fighting 2 wars, one against the Japanese, one against my own body. His enemy was Lieutenant General Sho's Sakurai's 33rd Division. The 33rd was not a parade ground formation. They were jungle-hardened, light, lethal, and they moved on rice and salt fish. Where the British column was tied to roads, Sakurai's 3 regiments, the 213th, 214th, and 215th, slipped through the bamboo on either flank, cutting communications, sowing panic, then striking before the British could react. By February 21st, only one obstacle stood between Sakurai and the road to Rangoon, the Sitang River, 600 yards wide, swift, tidal, crocodile-infested. Crossable in one place only, a single steel railway bridge near the village of Mokbalin. And here is what the history books leave out. That bridge was not built for trucks. It was a railway span, narrow, laid with railway sleepers between the tracks, with a sheer 100-foot drop into black water. Across this needle, every man, every mule, every gun of the 17th Indian Division had to crawl in single file. But that was only the opening move. What happened next defied every rule of warfare. Stay with me, because we are about to reach the moment that shocked even the enemy commanders. On the morning of February 22nd, the 16th and 46th Indian Infantry Brigades were east of the river, fighting a rearguard against the Japanese 215th Regiment. The 48th Indian Brigade, made up almost entirely of Gurkhas, the 1st Battalion 4th Gurkha Rifles under Lieutenant Colonel Bobby Lentani, the 2nd Battalion 5th Royal Gurkha Rifles, and the 1st Battalion 3rd Gurkha Rifles had been pulled across to hold the bridgehead on the west bank. Their commander, Brigadier Noel Hugh Jones, was given a single monstrous responsibility. If the Japanese reached that bridge before the rest of the division crossed, he was to blow it. Even if British and Indian soldiers were still on the far side. Now here is the part the official histories sanded smooth. Sakurai did not wait for the 17th Division to cross. On the night of the 22nd, his 214th Regiment, roughly 5,000 bayonets, performed a forced march through trackless jungle, looped north, and emerged on the east bank directly behind the British column. They struck the bridgehead from the rear. By 3 a.m. on the 23rd, Japanese infantry were within grenade range of the demolition charges. Hugh Jones got Smythe on the field telephone. The line was bad. The general's voice was thick with morphine and exhaustion. The order came back, blow it. And here is the moment everything turned. Hugh Jones hesitated. He did the math in his head, 5,000 of his own men still on the east bank, fighting in the dark, believing they had a bridge to come home to. He asked for confirmation. He got it. 5:30 a.m., Sapper Lieutenant Bashir Ahmed Khan plunged the detonator, and 400 pounds of gun cotton tore the 2 central spans into the river. The detonation was heard 15 miles away, but the bridge did not die alone. Holding the eastern approach ramp, the last 50 yards before the demolition, was a single composite platoon of the 1st Battalion, 4th Gurkha Rifles, 47 men. Their orders were not to retreat. Their orders were to hold until the charges blew. They had 4 Bren guns, no anti-tank rifles, and a single 2-inch mortar with 11 bombs. Against them came the lead company of the Japanese 214th Regiment, supported by mortars and a captured Vickers machine gun. The Gurkhas knew, every one of them, that when the bridge came down, the river would be their grave. The 47 held for 93 minutes. What happened on that bridge ramp between 4 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. has been pieced together from 3 sources. A Japanese after-action report filed by Major Tadashi Kobayashi, a 1946 debriefing of 2 surviving Gurkha riflemen who swam the Sitang and were captured downstream, and a single water-stained pocket diary recovered from the body of Subadar Banpagtapun, not the famous VC of the same name, but his cousin, a junior officer in 1/4 Gurkhas. The Japanese attacked in waves. The first wave came at 4:11 a.m., roughly 80 men expecting a token rearguard. They were cut down at 15 yards. The Gurkhas had ranged in their Brens on stakes driven into the dirt the previous afternoon. Drop in the comments, would you have ordered a rearguard knowing the bridge behind them was set to blow? Because that is exactly the choice Lentani made. The second wave was heavier, 2 platoons, a section of grenadiers, a knee mortar team. They got within 30 yards before the Gurkhas charged them, with kukris. The kukri, the curved Nepalese fighting knife, is not a ceremonial blade. It is a weapon that can take an arm off at the shoulder. The Japanese accounts describe what happened next as ghost work, silent, fast, devastating. Subadar Pun's diary records 11 enemy dead in that single counter-rush. The Gurkhas lost 3. By 5 a.m., the platoon was down to 29 effective men. Lieutenant Colonel Lentani, watching from the west bank, signaled them to withdraw across the bridge. They refused. The signal log recovered later contains a single-word reply attributed to Naik Pahalman Limbu. Holding. 3 minutes later, the Japanese brought up their captured Vickers. The Bren positions were systematically destroyed. By 5:25 a.m., only 17 Gurkhas were still firing. At 5:30 a.m., the charges went off. The ramp tilted, twisted, and dropped into the Satang, carrying the last of the rearguard with it. Of 47 men, only two swam clear. The rest are still in the river. And here is the detail that even the British official history could not bring itself to print until 1981. The 5,000 men trapped on the east bank, many of them owed their escape to those 93 minutes. Because while the Gurkhas held the ramp, 2 Indian brigades broke contact, threw their heavy weapons into the bamboo, and made for the river. Of the 8,500 soldiers on the east bank that morning, roughly 3,300 eventually crossed, most by swimming, most without rifles. Without the 47, that number would have been 0. The Satang Bridge disaster cost the 17th Indian Division everything. 2 brigades effectively ceased to exist. 6,000 rifles, 40 field guns, 200 trucks, and the entire divisional reserve of ammunition went into the river or into Japanese hands. Rangoon fell on March 8, just 13 days later. Burma was lost. The longest retreat in British military history, 900 miles to the Indian border, had begun. The political fallout was savage. General Sir Archibald Wavell, the theater commander, sacked Smythe on the spot. Smythe was sent home in disgrace, his VC and his career both shadowed by Satang for the rest of his life. Hugh Jones, the man who had pressed the plunger, was passed over for promotion and quietly retired in 1944. The official inquiry, held in Delhi that April, concluded that the demolition was premature but unavoidable. It said nothing, not one line, about the rearguard. Why? Because acknowledging the 47 would have meant acknowledging what their sacrifice exposed. That British command had abandoned its own men. That a general drugged to the eyes had made a call he was not fit to make. That the only thing standing between 5,000 Empire soldiers and total annihilation was a Gurkha platoon nobody bothered to name. It took until 1981, 39 years later, for the regimental history of the 4th Gurkhas to finally list them. 47 names, 45 graves in the river. 2 names with a small annotation. Swam clear, later POW. Sakurai himself, interviewed in 1962 before his death, was asked about Satang. He spoke for a long time about the brilliance of his own flanking maneuver. Then he stopped and said this: "We took the bridge, but we did not take the men on it. They went into the river with their kukris in their hands. I have fought the Russians, the Chinese, the Americans. I have never fought anyone like those Gurkhas." CTA 12:13 minutes. If you made it this far, you already know what kind of channel WarDossier is. We do not do generic. We do the names, the timelines, the maps that the textbooks skip. Subscribe right now and you will get the next 12 videos in our Forgotten Pacific War series, every one of them researched to this depth, every one of them telling you what really happened on the ground. Hit the subscribe button. We are at 7,000. With your help, we hit the next milestone this month. Outro 13:15 minutes. The Satang Bridge teaches one lesson, and it is a hard one. Courage does not always change the outcome. The 47 did not save Burma. Burma fell. Rangoon fell. The Empire's eastern frontier collapsed all the way to the gates of Impal. But courage measured in minutes, 93 of them on a railway ramp over a brown river, can save the men behind you. It can keep an army alive long enough to come back. And 3 years later, when the 17th Indian Division marched back into Rangoon in May 1945, the 1st Battalion of the 4th Gurkha Rifles led the column. They had not forgotten. They have not forgotten yet. If this one hit you, my next video is on Slim's counterstroke at Impal Kohima, the battle the Japanese themselves called the greatest defeat in their history. It is the other half of this story, the half where the Empire came back. The 47 would have wanted you to see it. On February 23, 1942, the Satang Bridge in Burma was demolished with 2 entire Indian brigades still trapped on the enemy side of the river. The order was given by Brigadier Noel Hugh Jones on the authority of Major General John Jackie Smythe VC, commanding the 17th Indian Infantry Division, and it remains the most controversial demolition decision in British military history. This is the story of that night, of the catastrophic loss that opened the road to Rangoon, and of the 47 men of the 1st Battalion, 4th Gurkha Rifles, who held the eastern bridgehead for 93 minutes against 5,000 soldiers of Lieutenant General Show's Sakurai's 33rd Division. We trace the strategic collapse of the Burma campaign, the role of the Japanese 214th Regiment's flanking march, and the cover-up that kept the rearguard's names off the official record until 1981. Timestamps: 0000, the order that damned an army 00, 45 Burma 1942, the race to the river 03, 00 Smythe, Sakurai, and the Sitang 06, 00 the 47 hold the ramp 09, 00 the cover-up and the legacy 12, 00 subscribe 13, 00 what the Gurkhas left behind WWII military history Gurkhas Burma campaign Sitang Bridge.